and struggle and all the good stuff that goes along with that. So I welcome Heather and appreciate you coming tonight to be our guest speaker. So everybody welcome her. Yay. And it's all you, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Erin. And Samantha. Wow. There's 42 people here. That's fantastic. Good for you guys. So my name is Heather. Heather Engle. I went to Carson High. I'm from Carson City. I was born in Elko. And I graduated in '86, which makes me 52. So we'll just get that out of the way right away. And, you know, and Carson City is in my blood. It's still my home. And a lot of interesting things and a lot of incredible life happened to me there because it's my home. Sorry. And so I'm also Heather Engle, the CEO for the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and I'm also Heather Engle, a commissioner for the Nevada Women's Commission. And the reason I'm going to tell you those things is because of how ultimately that ended up occurring. Most importantly, I am Heather. I'm a mother of amazing, fabulous children. I'm also Heather, an alcoholic and an opiate addict. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I went to Fritch Elementary and Bray, and my mom taught at both schools. I had an incredible life. My dad died when I was 9, things happen. But we're Native people in Carson City, so we had a fairly big life. I skated all through high school, and I did at Meadowood Mall, and I did student council. I did all these things growing up that you're supposed to do, I suppose. But really, in hindsight, I ended up doing them because it made me feel normal, because something was already not okay in me. But I didn't know what that was. Not at all. Not for many, many, many years. I didn't party or anything in high school. It just wasn't my thing. I was always too afraid to do stuff. I was a friend of all. I didn't participate in cliques. I still do not. I'm still friends. I'm still very, very good friends with probably 95 of our graduating class. And maybe that's a sign of the times back then, maybe, who knows. But what I know is that I suffer from a label of fat, stupid, and ugly that guided every fiber of my life for a really long time. And it still exists in me. It's still right here. It just doesn't own me like it did anymore, like it did back then. I mean, to the point where I never wanted to hand in a piece of paper. I didn't want to go in front of the class because I was inadequate and stupid. And I suffered from a learning disability that I didn't know I had back then. And not a significant one, but enough of one. And I remember there was a counselor back then who basically told me that I would be fine to be in a vocation for the rest of my life, but going to college was not really going to happen for me, or I shouldn't really apply. I hate math, but there's a reason I'm going to tell you all that. Just kind of throw this out here and kind of cinch it all up together, because it all does come together. Math and me are not friends at all to this very day, which really is a mystifying thing that I do what I do for a living. But I'm okay with it now. My staff was just in here and they were like, hey, what's this number? I'm like, I don't know, give me a calculator, right? Because I know who I am today and I'm okay with that. But back then, I was not okay with it. I was not okay with it, and I did not feel like I fit in anywhere in my life. But I did, but I didn't feel that way. I'm a loner by nature, just kind of, I'm a homebody for sure. And, and I did drill team and cheerleading, and I did all those things. And you know what? I'm really glad I did. And because they were amazing and they filled a real big role in my life back then. But really, it made me feel like I belonged. It made me feel like I belonged. I went to UNR. I went to UNR on probation because my grades were not all that fabulous. I joined a sorority, and those women are still a huge part of my everyday life. They really are. And I didn't really even party in college. I mean, I think I did the normal stuff, that we do. I was always the mom. I was always the responsible one. I met my then husband there too. somewhere in life, I always end up in a leadership position, and it's certainly nothing that I have sought out. It just shows up. Honestly, at this point in my life, I kind of run from it because I still don't know if I can fulfill those shoes, but they just keep showing up. So back then I was vice president of my sorority, Alpha Chi Omega. My husband, who I ended up marrying, was president of Sigma Nu. We went to Reno High, we're rivals, so there was that. And we formed an incredible group of friends. I did not graduate. I still am 10 credits shy. And I haven't gone back, and there's reasons for that too. Anyway, so I'm going to kind of just zip right on through and then really get to why we're here. But all these things matter. They all matter because it's where you're at right now. I know that there are some of you sitting there at home with addicted parents, alcoholic parents. There's bottles under a bed somewhere. There's pills in closets. There's pills in socks. I'm not going to tell you all those places because you might know them and you might not, and you don't need to. But I know that with a group of 40 some odd people, we can look at the percentages and really know the truth in that. Substance abuse aside, I know that there are some of you who are looking in the mirror every day feeling incredibly worthless, like you do not belong in life, that you will never be where you need to be, comparing yourselves to what everyone else is doing. And that breaks my heart because you are so worthy. You are so worthy. So through college, blah, 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 we get married and we moved to the Bay Area, and I have a daughter and a son. My alcoholism and drug addiction kicked off 2 weeks after my son was born, which was 26 years ago on the 20th of March. And what happened to me back then was that I had a hip-to-hip cesarean section. I had a very violent birth, and my son was very early, but my kids are well over 6'5", and he was 9'5" and 23 inches long. And I had a 2-year-old daughter who's most amazing. They're both amazing people. And what happened to me is like everything chemically probably aligned and hormonally at that point. So I know today that I was born with the gene of alcoholism. And I'm adopted, and I ended up finding my birth families in the past couple of years. And my mom died of alcoholism. My dad died of alcoholism. And it typically can skip a generation. You can have alcohol and drugs ruin your life. They can be horrible. They can put you in prison. They can do all these things, but it doesn't make you an addict, and it doesn't make you an alcoholic. Only some of us really get to experience that thing. And so now I know that I have this gene. And when I look back through my whole life, how I can see how the isms have affected me my whole life. And I'll kind of explain those. But what ended up happening was the pain pills they gave me, this was in 95, made me feel normal. I was able to exhale probably for the first time in my whole life. Like I've been holding my breath my whole life. And I know that this was not, right, for sure. I knew that. My husband at the time worked for Cyril Pharmaceuticals, so it worked out really well for me, right? I went to doctors and I explained to them that this is what makes me feel normal. I know it's not okay, but for the first time in my life, I can breathe. And the first time in my life, I feel like I am free. And what happened is that I have this disease. And so it started a slow burn of what we call the phenomenon of craving. You can have an alcoholic body, you can have an alcoholic gene, and it doesn't mean that you're going to drink alcohol alcoholically. It could mean that you use drugs alcoholically. It could mean that you smoke alcoholically. Basically, when you begin to start something, you can't stop. You've lost the ability of choice. And so that became a slow burn. Then it went into doctor shopping, and it went into family discovery. I just continued to hide it. I continued to hide it for a really long time. And it was manageable to a degree until it wasn't. I started drinking on a fairly regular basis, or hiding my drinking, probably when we moved to Vegas, a couple of years before that. So probably, I don't know, 21 years, what how's my son? 26, so probably 24 years ago, is when I really started drinking, to the point where when my husband came home, I'd give him a beer, so he knew I was, you know, he wasn't, that I wasn't drinking during the day. And I hid stuff, because that's what we do. We don't throw things away because God forbid somebody find them, so we just continue to hide stuff. Which logically doesn't make sense, right? Anything I tell you about what I do and how I did it will not make sense to you in any way. But it makes sense to other alcoholics and addicts. We're like, okay, we get you. So I hid bottles in under beds, I hid them in backpacks, I hid them in my children's closet. I hid them everywhere. And one time I came home and my husband had found them all under the bed. And you know, he's 6'8". So he sat on my bed every night, and every night I cringed. Every night I wondered when I'd be found out. And I came home and they were all lined up on the bedroom floor. And that was the first time I had a macro look at my disease. And we immediately went to an AA meeting. I immediately identified and knew I had to get the hell out of there as fast as I can. He went to work, I came home, and I started burying my bottles in a construction site by our house. And so it goes. And so it goes. Worse, worse, worse. If I could get my hands on any kind of pills, any kind of opiate, it balanced it out. Women are different chemically. Everybody's different. But two depressants for me balanced my stuff out. It elongated my ability to drink. By this point, we are divorced, you know, clearly. And I have the kids, and which clearly wasn't a smart thing probably for any of us. And I moved my family to Boulder City because I'm from Carson City and I'm a small town person, and that's truly where I just belong. And I know that. And so and that's where my disease really hit the bottom rung, you know, and it did. I drank 24 hours a day for a good long time. And I had about 30% of my liver left. And Heather heard, oh, good, I still have 30% of my liver left. And I wouldn't, if somebody said to me, Heather, do you think you're an alcoholic? I would be like, absolutely not. But I knew in my heart, I knew exactly who I was. But I could not get to the other side. I could not do it. And I couldn't conceptualize to see the other side of that. I've been arrested twice. I had a hit and run accident, and then I did nothing about it for 2 years. And in Boulder City, it's like Carson City, there's like one cop per person. And somehow I evaded that forever. And then I was heading into Vegas, and I got pulled over again. And this time, the Sheriff Young here in Vegas was my kids as a great godfather. And the sheriff himself came down to Clark County Detention Center. And I don't, you guys, God forbid you'll ever experience something like that, which could. But the sheriff does not come down to the drunk tank anywhere. It's not safe. It's not what they do, but he did. And he told me straight up, listen, because my family would have been in Reno and Carson City the weekend. And he said, I've called everybody knows. And I sat in there for 2 weeks, and it's a horrible place. Clark County Detention Center here in Las Vegas is very much like prison. It is not like a jail. It is not like Carson City jail, and it's not like Reno jail. And I speak there, so I've seen them. And it's not like that. And I went to court in a jumpsuit with my whole family there, you know. And my mom was an angel that masqueraded as a human being on this earth. And that woman saved my life, my whole life. She didn't know what to do with me in the fact that she knew I hated myself. She knew I didn't feel worthy. She knew that I couldn't see my worth. And I had a perfect life, you know. I had an amazing family. And I just troubled her, you know, and now here we go in full-blown alcoholism. And I didn't stop drinking because that's not what we do. We don't stop drinking because we lose our children, we get arrested or anything like that. That's not it. The bottom is an interpersonal hell that we have to hit a bottom like that. I don't wish on anyone who thinks the hell we go to, but I wish on everyone having a time. But not everybody gets that lucky. That's just the case. And
Heather, can I ask you, how old were you at this time when you were in the Las Vegas Detention Center?
37.
How old?
37. I got sober at 38 through suicide. So I got out and I wanted to be sober. Please know that. Please know that. We don't want to be who we are. We don't want to be who we are. We don't know how to get to the other side. It's kind of like Indiana Jones in the search of the Holy Grail, when they're running under the ground and they got the bad guys after them and they're running and they see the Holy Grail, but it's on the other side of a bottomless pit. And they're up against that and they have nowhere to go. And he gets really mad and he kicks the sand, and the sand illuminates this optical illusion path. And that's exactly what happened to me. We want to get to the other side, but we don't know how to do that. So I continued drinking. My sobriety date is 1107. I attempted suicide. My mom had called me and told me that I was dead to her. And she did that in an attempt to save my life, because she knew that if she completely shut the door on me, I might die, or I might actually hit the bottom and breathe again. And that's what happened. And I can't, and she's passed, and I'll get to that in a second too. And so I attempted suicide, and I woke up in my bed naked, and I was full of blood, and but I was awake for the first time in probably 15 years. And I can't really explain what happened, because we become beyond human aid, and I had become beyond human aid. And I bandaged myself up, and I called my ex-husband, who I didn't know but had been down the street. And he said, I'll be right there. And I thought to myself, it's Wednesday, it's garbage day. So I have to get all the bottles out of my house and all the pills and all the drugs out of my house now, because God forbid he sees it, like nobody knows. The cat was out of the bag a long time ago, but I needed to do that. And then I thought, okay, so I'm going to bag all this stuff up. I'm going to put it out. The garbage men are going to come. They're going to pick it up. It's going to crash all over. Because again, God forbid, that I'm in half clothes and completely bloody and I have no hair at this point, right? But God forbid they see that. And then Scott's going to come and he's going to see everything, and then everything will be out. Like that was my biggest concern. And so the garbage men came and nothing happened. And for that moment, I had trust within faith. Having faith is one thing, but trusting within anything is a whole different action. And I got in the car, it took me to suicide. Took me to the suicide watch here at UMC. And they didn't treat me all that nicely, which I needed. I don't need somebody to pat me on the head at this point. And so from there, I went to West Care Detox, and a woman named Crystal Williams, and I'm only bringing her up because I get to work with her in the community now every day. But she held my face and she said to me, honey, God has you. He has a plan for you. And she breathed oxygen in me that very moment. And I was just on the phone with her right before I was going to get on with you guys. And every day I see her, I try to thank her for that. I remember seeing her when I was 5 years sober, and I ran up to her like she was like Lady Gaga. And I'm like, I've been watching you for all these years in the community. I ended up becoming chief of staff for West Care for the country. I ended up doing a lot of incredible things because I didn't die. But it didn't happen like that. And I ended up going to a place here called We Care, which is alcoholic women helping alcoholic women, or drug addicted women helping drug addicted women. And I'm telling you that because these women are no bullshit. They're going to tell you the truth about yourself in really, really, really gripping ways. Because it's important that they broke my ego down. And it's not the ego that we think we're wonderful, because we don't. We think that we're pieces of crap every day of our life. And we believe that. But it's the ego of I've got it. I just needed a few days. I need to fix stuff up for a few days. My children are two of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. And my son suffers from stuff. Not my stuff necessarily, but he suffered from suicidal ideations for quite a long time. I had to go do a covert up and pull him out of UNR and all this and that. My family's been through a lot. My former husband was paralyzed as a quadriplegic when I was 18 months sober. My kids have been through a lot, but we're still together. We're still unified. I married 6 years ago a man who has a foundation called There Is No Hero in Heroin because he lost his son to a heroin overdose in his arms. Since then, we've created a whole lot of amazing stuff here together with God's help and everybody else. So let's get to that. Let's get to where you're at. Because it's one thing, self-knowledge is what? Self-knowledge is just self-knowledge. It doesn't cure you. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't do a whole lot of anything when you're in the moment. What I wish for you is when you are in a place, and I will give my phone number, that you call immediately. We're so afraid of judgment. Because we do, alcoholics, addicts, we do incomprehensible, demoralizing acts. We all have yets, right? I have yet to put a needle in my arm, but if I were to pick up a drink right now, I pick up where I left off 14 years ago. My body is different. My disease is still there. It's still there. It's exactly where I left it. It is not better. It never gets better. It only gets worse. So we have to work on it all the time, which I do. But if I picked up a drink now, I would either die from alcohol poisoning or I'd immediately find, now I'm connected. I know people everywhere in every walk of life. I would find somebody that would get me heroin and I would die. And I know that. Your lives are still so full of yets. My life is still full of yets. When people say, I haven't done that, and I haven't done it yet. You haven't done it yet. I would like to come on and be super inspiring and tell you how to handle this as teenagers, but I can't because I have picked up many dead bodies and gutters of children. It's what I do. I work for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Youth. I'm a political operative. I'm the CEO for the Las Vegas Rescue Mission. I work with human trafficking women and truly drug addicted people and I mean people that have been raped and beat in every way that you can possibly imagine. I have held children's bodies who are trying to hang themselves because they're not accepted, because they're gay or they're transgender or they're heroin addicts or whatever, and their parents have pushed them out, or they could not muster up enough inside themselves to say, I'm going to die, I need help, help me. I have seen it all the time. I've seen it too much. But I'm still here doing it because I believe very strongly that if we can breathe enough oxygen into somebody, we can give you just enough to know that you are 100 and 1000% safe picking up the phone. I've had people call me and say, listen, I'm about to kill somebody. I've got a gun to my head and I'm afraid I'm going to put a needle in my arm. And I'm like, okay, so where are you? Right? I'm going to immediately reach into some people I know that are going to keep this stuff quiet, but we're going to run to that person's aid. Probably completely unsafe 90% of the time. But I'm telling you that because there's no judgment to anything that you do. I sponsor women who strip, stone cold sober, God bless them. I sponsor women who still prostitute. I love them tremendously. Our job isn't to judge how things happen, but our job is to give you so much information, hopefully, that you don't have to walk down the same dark path that most of us had to walk down. You're in a different world. Things are differently accessible to you. Social media is the devil as much as it is a savior. We need to be valued so desperately bad, and we want to be heard so desperately bad that we listen to the wrong things and we believe it. It's not real. It never was. It never was. Each one of you has the strength within you to rise to any situation, but we were never supposed to rise alone. And let me tell you, you can rise 100 times over. You can give me anything bad, man, and I'm all in, but you give me something joyous and wonderful, and I'll find a way to screw that up in 2 seconds because, boy, I still don't really know how to do that. I went from one place in my life feeling like I could never matter to being handed a life that I envy every day, that I still don't know that I can manage every day. But I live in a tribe of very strong women in Alcoholics Anonymous. I live in a tribe of women who tell me the truth about myself every single day. I hung up on my sponsor 3 days ago. I've had her for 12 of my 14 years. I sponsor 8 women right now, and I have 5 women in the book, which means they're new. I sponsor women to keep Heather sober. They think it's about them, and I love that. But it keeps me in the step that they're in every time. But I don't deviate from my tribe. And it doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that I have not had my hand in my life to jack it up at any given moment, because I so have. I just now know who I am. I know what sets me off. I mean, I created my senior team here. I took people from West Care that were with me for many years across the country. I brought them here because I trust them with my life. And I need them to step in front of me. We had a situation today, right? And I'm in a mood because I'm a little, I have a lot of staff that are suffering losses right now. My whole team is hurting, they're hurting, and I can't fix that. And I almost fired someone right there on the spot, which probably still gonna happen, by the way. But it's not gonna happen like that, right? So I will go to my team and I'm like, someone needs to stand up for that. Somebody needs to step in quick, right? I figure out who I am. I know who I am. I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. I hate Excel. Ugh, it's horrible. I hate anything like that. It's horrible. And I have a team that does, they're good at that, right? They're good at that. But when we're home alone, sitting in front of a camera, right? Especially if you have something going on at home, if parents are fighting or maybe not healthy, right? Or maybe you aren't smoking weed today and you're trying super hard, really, really hard not to smoke weed tomorrow. Maybe you need someone to help walk you through those things confidentially. But you need to have somewhere to go and someone to call. Life attracts life, water seeks its own level, right? So if I'm in a state of mind that's bad, like I hate myself, I wish I wasn't here, right? I still have those thoughts. They still come through me. The worst thing I can do is pick up the phone and call someone who's exactly in that same place, right? Because what's going to happen? It's going to happen. We're going to end up doing something or having some pretty dark ass conversations, right? So it's okay to say to somebody, I can't talk about that right now. I need to find, or don't talk at all. I mean, honestly, sometimes manners are just, sometimes they just need to go away, honestly. Sometimes it's okay to be an asshole. Sometimes it's okay to scream fire if somebody's coming at you and wants to sell you something. Sometimes it's okay to do that. But my hope for you and what we've done here in Vegas, and this is all just in divinity, it's all just happened in a divine way. I'm not saying this in a religious sense. The rescue mission is a Christian mission, but I'm going to tell you, the Christian community wasn't happy to have Heather here because she says things we shouldn't say. But I have a tremendous trust and faith in an infinite God rather than a finite self. And for me, it's a universal spirit, right? I have to know that, and I have to lean into that, or I die, and that's just the facts. But when you do have that in your life, amazing things transpire. And that's what happened when I met my husband. My husband now is 26 years sober. We've been swimming around each other in the same rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous all these years. I never even know who he was. My team knew who he was because they were very well aware of his foundation, which he created because he lost his son to a heroin overdose. He'd been chasing his son around Las Vegas, managing his heroin addiction with 3 other sons alone for many years. His son ended up getting sober in Ely, came back here and tried one more time and died. And he can't drink, right? He can't drink. He can't do all the things that we would normally do to hide and not feel. Sobriety makes you feel all your feelings. I'm just going to tell you that right now, and you'll get through it. They're not all bad, but they're a little bumpy in the beginning. And so he created There Is No Hero in Heroin Foundation, and he started raising money independently and quietly and putting people through sober living. Because by the time we get where we're at, there's nothing left. We don't have money to get into sober living. So he started doing that anonymously. And then we met in a very weird way, as it's supposed to happen. Yes, I'm aware. And I'm like, hey, we should probably, what about a publicly funded recovery high school? Because that's what I do. He doesn't do that. That's what I do. Little political operative over here. I get to play with my human trafficking ladies here. I get to hang out with the single dads who are addicted here. It's amazing. And I'm overwhelming, and I'm sure super overwhelming to him back then. And I'm like, because I had just been at the body of a girlfriend of mine's child who was rolled into her gutter. I just testified to the Good Samaritan Law. The Good Samaritan Law is this: if you are with somebody and you guys are drinking, drugging, and using, and somebody passes out, pick up the phone and call 911. You will not be questioned. You doesn't matter what record you have or anything like that. My question to legislators was this: who's taking it into the heroin dens? You want to put this on the news? Go ahead. Who's going to know? So we took it down there, but we couldn't save my friend's kid, and we couldn't save my other friend's kid. And it was enough for me when this little girl was rolled into the gutter of that lady's house because they were too afraid to call. You're not wrong to want to try things. You're human. Where we get hung up is that nothing is what you think it is. Nothing is made how you think it is. It's not. And if you are alcoholic, if you do hang out with that gene, if that is in your life, the likelihood of you rising to the occasion is pretty good. It's not an exact science using either. It's just not, you know? But you're not bad. You're beautiful, and you're people, and you're human. And we're in a situation, especially in the pandemic, where just change the way I feel, change the way I feel. I can't feel this way, right? Anything to change the way I feel. So we did the high school, and we created, because nobody has money. Who has money for private school? No, I never did. So we made it free, right? And it worked out, whatever. So now we have the alternative peer group here too that's thriving. What we're trying to do is create these communities around the city so that kids can run somewhere. They can run somewhere so they don't have to change the way they feel that way. Or at least give people enough phone numbers that they keep on their phone to where you're in a dark situation. You know you shouldn't be there. You know you need to get out, but you sure as heck can't tell them because God forbid we're found out, right? I mean, and I get that. So to text somebody and say I'm in trouble, please come get me. Trying to create that network, right? What scares me the most is watching my son suffer from suicidal ideations. And I own that because I put him there, right? And I remember my sponsor crumbling up the 4-step paperwork on resentment and self-hate and threw it in my face because she's like that. Those are the people you need in your life, right? You need that. You need someone to shock you right up. But they're going to love you too. But I mean, we all need a bit of a hit once in a while. And she said to me, how selfish. But I thought, oh, who does that? Like, my son's in peril and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, you're making this about you, Heather. Again, the more you make it about you, you take yourself from your child. Again, it's been an incredible journey. My husband sits on, my former husband sits on the board of my husband's foundation. I am very close with my husband's ex-wives. Our children interact as if they were never not related. That's all Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all recovery. And a lot of universal help. In my family, right this very second, there's 6 people out of 12 that are hurting so desperately bad. 3 in addiction, couple in their own victimization. There's a difference between being a victim and being victimized. I have been a victim and I've victimized many people, right? 2 different things. I have some family that's running that victim card. Don't you know? Don't you know how bad my life is? So we treat them in a trauma-informed way, which means we assume that someone is going through something, is about to go through something, or is currently in something, and that's called compassion. It's called compassion. The more that you give back, the more you get back. You could be opening a door for somebody or picking up the phone or reaching out. So I'll tell you what, that one person that you can't stand, because I can't stand that, right? Is the one person who's going to grow you. It's the one person who is probably going to reach their hand out to you and help you stand up. The worst thing that we do, especially at this age here, and my staff will tell you absolutely, I will let you go in 4 minutes if you gossip about anybody here. I take a very hard stand on bullying, gossiping, and judgment. Now, I get it, we're human. I don't live in a delusion that I don't have 100 people talk about me behind my back. It's my job, I get it. But my job is to teach, grow, and love them. And discipline, right? That's what it is. But gossip is bad. Judgment is bad. Women who act like Lifetime movie women, bad. Give us all a bad name. And I've done it. Please know, my daughter's done it. You know, had a little chat about that. My daughter-in-law. Women together are titanium. Women divided will cut each other to ribbons like a boomerang to no end. To no end. If I had a quarter for every single woman that came in here and said, I don't really like women. They don't like women because they can't manipulate women. If I had a quarter for every man that said to me, all I need is a job, Heather, just need a job, I've got to find a job, right? Men are born that way, provide, 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 right? So boys, you want to surround yourself with some solid men who walk a walk that you want to walk. I can hook you up with every phone number you need. We can put you in any chat room you need to do with that. But the one thing I want to really stress to you is yes, drugs are bad. Alcohol's bad, but you're not bad. And what you're thinking isn't bad. And what you've done doesn't define you. It's just what you've done, right? It's not who you are. You have a whole lifetime of mistakes ahead. I walk into an open fan all the time, publicly. My stuff always ends up, my stuff's never been private. My disease was never private. My arrest record was just thrown out there again. Somebody said I should seal it. I'm like, to what point? I mean, it's not a secret. The world's known for a long time, you know? But I have a life today. If somebody would have told me where I'd be now talking to you, I would have shortchanged myself a long time ago if I made those plans myself. And it has nothing to do with this part of my job. It has to do with that I am free from Heather. I am free. I live as a free woman. I am no longer constrained by the fear of letting go of nothing and all these things. That I've had a team of people who have gotten me there. I was listening to a speaker in AA the other day, and he said, Alcoholics is the only place where you can go into a room of strangers and reminisce. And what he means is our stories are all the same. Our demise are all the same. Our lies, our theft, or whatever we do is all the same. And that makes it safe. That makes it safe. So that's what we try to do with kids, is create an area for them. We have usually a ringer kid who's brave enough to say, this is what I do, so that someone will go, oh, I think that too. Your thoughts aren't bad. They're not your wants, your dreams. And I think one of the best things that I've seen lately that my team is doing here is that we're getting dreams back into people that come in off the streets, or, you know, and there's a lot of service resistant people here. Please know that not everybody wants help. But if you get somebody who's been in enough trauma over a period of time, their life is just chaotic trauma, even the children, I mean, especially the kids 11 to 21, we say to them, what do you want to be? No, you know, no money, no college education, barriers. What would that be? And this one kid the other day said, I want to be a CSI. And I'm like, we can figure something out here. So here's what we need. This is what we need from you. And then I went and I called 100 contacts, and I'm like at their crime lab, and they're super busy. I get it. And I said, so I need a massive favor, and I've already committed to it. You know, don't ever do things unless you got enough pocket, you know, you got to keep things in your back pocket. That's how Nevada works. And so we got him an hour to just watch the CSI lab. I will do that for you. I will pull any string I can. I believe in nepotism a little bit because I just do. But we have to remember to dream, man. We are not our thoughts. I'm looking at your eyes right now. I can see you. I can see you. You are not your thoughts. You are your glory. Whatever talent you have is absolutely stunning. And whatever thing that you aren't good at, okay, you're not good at it. You really want to be? Probably not. So, I mean, don't try, you know? But you are not what you have done, and you are not what you think. And I just can't stress that enough. I just can't. If you end up in trouble with drugs, okay. If you end up in trouble with alcohol, it's okay. If you end up getting arrested, it's okay. And what I mean by okay is, well, it happened. Remember this. It's never what happens. It's how you handle it that you're defined by, and it's how you handle it that you remember. Just remember that. And I will connect and give phone numbers or whatever, whatever you need, we can figure that out. And if it's just to sit on the phone in silence, man, I am all in. I am all in. So I think that's all I got.
Heather, I have so many questions, and I'm like, one of my students are like, "Are you okay, Mrs. Bean?" I was like, "Yeah," but she's so compelling and so real, like how you own your mistakes. You're like, I did this, and why fill up my record? Because it's what I did. It's my life, and I love how you verbalize that. And then you also verbalize, like, I am a good person. I am valuable. Like, you do that. And that's amazing, because that is so hard. I always talk to my kids in class, and I'm like, you can't even take a compliment, like, "Oh, I like your sweater." You always respond with, "Oh, this is so old," or "It's just something I threw on." Like, it's really hard to accept that. And then to give yourself compliments, I mean, that doesn't happen very often. But one question I have for you is, like, you say, reach out, reach out, reach out. First of all, the students involved in whatever decision they make that may be the wrong one have to realize they're in a bad spot. They have to do some self-realization and come to the terms with, I am struggling and I do need help. And then secondly, I give my kids numbers and websites, and we talk about resources. How
Yeah.
do you actually instill in them, like, you can reach out and you do need to reach out? Like,
Yeah, no, that's like spot on. I give myself compliments because they make me do that, those horrible people in AA. And I do that, and in the beginning it was, I want to throw up, like, honestly. But in order to retrain the mind, we have to retrain the mind, right? I didn't necessarily believe it, I just said it. And then it just, you start to kind of love yourself. I could not agree with you more on that whole resource, bullshit, because it's very important. I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm saying that you give me a computer screen full of stuff, I am never picking up the phone and saying, "Hi, my name's Heather, I'm gonna," I'm never gonna do that. So we have to create it internally. Like, you, me, Samantha, we're gonna create something to give them that's actual and factual. So my children, with real people that are safe, who have done what you do, right? And we'll pick up the phone. And that's just it. That's what I do, because I can't say, even our case management, when we're putting people in permanent housing or whatever the case is, we don't give them a packet of paper and say, "Hope it works out for you," because they're not going to do that. First of all, it's hieroglyphic. I mean, it's a ton of stuff, but we have to actually walk them through. We have to show them what to do, right? And we have to be real, because honestly, if somebody was trying to talk to me that hadn't done the things Heather's done, and they said, "How does that make you feel?" I probably would have picked something up and really talked to them how that makes me feel, because now I'm exposed. I'm exposed in some of the most demoralizing stuff you could ever meet. So when I work with a woman that's just coming in here, especially a trafficking woman, and excuse my frankness, but this is what really happens, I lay it out for them. You can tell me that you dropped to your knees on your dad to get $5, and I'm okay with that. And I give them all those different really horrifying factors, because one of them's true somewhere along the line, and they need to know I know that, and they need to know they're safe to say that. So I'm trying really hard to recreate exactly what you're talking about. My kids in my own home had blanket moments, of which I've completely started to do in what I do in a different way. So if my son Christian wanted to tell me something, he would put a blanket over my head, because it gave him the freedom to just talk. And so we've maintained that, all of us as adults, or 52, whatever, we've maintained that, because it gives us that level of freedom, right? I don't care. It's never, I don't care what people have to say. I care that they need to say it, not for me, just bring it out. So how do we create that, right? We create it in anonymity. Even if it's just a Zoom screen that's blank, right? It's easier to share when people aren't looking at you, or you're sitting across the desk from somebody. That's what I'm saying. That, I know I don't know you, and that's okay. but I'm going to put my number up there. I will get with Samantha. I will get with you, Erin, and I will give you guys a call list of people and my family, because that's what we do all the time. That, you know, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, this is Susie, and you know, I'm about to pop a whole handful of pills, and I'm going to go, so what'd you do this morning? You know, we're gonna try to talk people around their stuff. But you're right, Erin. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, things I can't do or participate or hear anymore is a resource fair. I can't do it anymore. I don't want to get it. And honestly, it takes time from my staff, and nothing happens. And but we can just try to create stuff, you know, and give you real phone numbers, because there are 40 some odd people on this. 30 to 40% of these people are suffering somewhere along the line, and maybe they heard something tonight. And if that's the case, you can reach me in any way, in any platform. I don't really Twitter. I don't know how. I don't really get it.
And
Yeah.
I have a question for you too. So this one's kind of like a difficult one, but so I would say, like, I know that, you know, I love what you said about how we're all human and we're all curious about these substances, which is totally true. I would say, how would you know, one, that you might have an issue with substances? And two, I know that when I go and I teach students and everything like that, they always ask me personally, well, have you drank? Have you ever tried this? Have you ever tried that? And it's just this very fine line, because if you tell them, yes, I have, then it's like, well, you became successful, so I can too. But then if you tell them no, then it's like you're almost sort of this square that doesn't resonate with who they are. So what line would you kind of like draw for these youth to be like, you might have a substance use issue, and to also resonate of like, I understand where you're coming from and all of that?
Super good one.
That's a hard one.
I don't know. I don't know I don't. I'm certainly, yeah, I'm that person that does walk that fine line. Sometimes I just don't even have one, right? And certainly it's gotten me in trouble when they asked me, when the governor called and said, no, I'm getting the commissioner. And I'm like, I don't really know that you want that. Because I'm not capable of not capable. I have to walk with HIPAA here, right? I have Homeland Security here right now. I have Secret Service over there right now. Like, there's a whole lot happening at the mission tonight. And yes, technically, there's a whole lot of stuff I shouldn't say, but I really don't abide by that at all, really, ever. So if someone asks me straight up what I've done, I tell them, have you done this? Yes, I have. You know, yes, I have. And this is what happened. You know, and this is what happened. I usually also throw in there, if I can read the situation appropriately, I will throw in there one of the worst horrendous things and awful things I've done right out of the gate, so that they know that I am owning my addiction, right? That they know that there's nothing flowery about how I would handle that necessarily. I get asked that all the time, again, because people use drugs to escape or to feel or to hide, doesn't mean that they're addicts, right? So there's that. An addict, for myself, speak for myself. 2 hours ago, this is so addict with me because I remember exactly what time it was, right? I have my Vanya's in here and she's cleaning up, right? And then I hear like pills in a bottle. And I immediately was like, I wonder if that's Percocet, right? Regular people that aren't me don't think that. When people pour wine on TV or they don't drink their whole drink, I'm like, I wonder what they're going to do with that. You know, I think like that. So if you there's a great quiz on NA or AA for sure. But the thing is if you're dependent, what's dependent? Are you dependent on oxygen? Are you dependent on water? Are you dependent on a substance? Maybe, right? Do I need something to get up during the day? Do I wake up and think, oh my God, at 2:30, I'm going to get high, can't wait, right? That's how we know, right? And we don't tell people who they are. They have to find out who they are. we're just going to give them a whole lot of direction and stuff. And I mean, up at the high school, every once in a while, or at the APG, I'll get called in to have a conversation. And that's the thing too. We all talk differently, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for a softer personality. There's a reason that you bring in someone who's going to tell you the truth, But really, I always look back at these incredible children and their faces and their souls, and I just, ask them, if I had a handful of whatever right now, would you be super excited about that? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, I know, me too. So let's figure out that we know that that's probably not what we need to do, right? So it's just a matter of really talking to them on a really honest level. I specifically, I was appointed to this job, and I turned it down numerous occasions because it's a religious overlay. Anyway, and I really don't fit in that box, and I think that's the most important thing too. There isn't a box. It's all a complete lie. There's no box. Don't try to fit in one. And because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to shut up or not to say the right thing or to what, kind of what you're saying. But what I was so attracted by too was that they have on-demand treatment, meaning that it's all free all the time, which I love, but also it's independent. At Westcare, I was chief of staff for the country, Guam, Taipei, Saipan, everywhere. And I ended up running the treatment here because I liked it better than that. I just think it was getting a little tiring up that way, and but what an honor. But then I'm completely regulated too, right? I'm regulated. I can't speak freely there. I have to speak around the corner and around the bend. I can't speak freely. And you're probably in a position a little bit maybe like that too, right? And I have to be careful because I speak for the mission. But if I'm going to sit down here and have a conversation with a kid or anybody and says to me honestly, have you done this? Have you done that? I'm going to look them straight in the eye and say, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm not going to paint a picture of joyousness in my using, right? Because that's not what happened. In college, I drank and had a great time and it was fun and I was able to put it down and there you go. But in my addiction life, in my life, I'm not going to lie to them. Now, am I going to read the room appropriately and tell them not everything I need to tell them? Absolutely. But I'm honest with them. And it never ends well, right? We play the tape all the way through and that's what I do.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that. Because I always get that question, especially like I love teaching for Air and Bean when I teach marijuana and they're like, well, have you ever smoked weed? And you're like, okay, this is not about me. We're doing a lesson. But I also know that when I do talk to the youth a lot, they're like, well, I only vape after school, or I only smoke pot on the weekends, or I only drink on the weekends. So what would you say is like that like cutoff line between like having an addiction versus just doing things for trying it, for instance?
Well, you're full of super really great hard stuff tonight.
I know, I'm sorry.
I might not be the right audience for that because I think that we as a society, growing up in Carson City, we did kick the can. I had a holistic childhood. Everybody got high once in a while. Oh, we got high, whatever. It was a quote normal. Weed, first of all, is not like it used to be. It's made with all kinds of really dangerous stuff. So know that. People die every single day that never smoked weed a day in their life. It happens all the time. So goes into the fact that weed's legal now. It's not legal here at the mission. My staff is drug tested. Most of them are in recovery, which works out for me too. So on that note, right, on vaping and smoking and stuff like that, that stuff's been going on for a really, really long time. And we're in a society right now where everything's bad and evil and horrible. And I get it, right? But I think there's so much attention on don't, that we're pushing people into this tiny itty bitty square where they can't even be people because it's bad. I don't believe that. Oh, I'm probably not the right person to say that. I would say this again, an addiction is when you can't put it down. When you romance it, you think about it all day long, you sexualize it, it is your lover, it is your friend, it is all those things, and you cannot wait. That is when things get bad, right? And honestly, my hands are, honestly, once you've crossed over, you're over, right? So now we have to work at trying to pull them out. But I mean, I'm a proponent of certain things that you probably don't want me to talk about. You know, I lived off cigarettes, coffee, and chocolate for 2 years, and it saved my life in my early sobriety. You know, it did. I was 38 when I got sober. So when we had the pandemic, when we packed the mission with 552 people, with only 38 staff, in a pandemic and something that unwritten crisis that nobody knew, I immediately was like, what smoke shops open for cigarettes, please? Because now I have a bunch of encampments and homeless people and all this other people who are dependent on nicotine, and I can't have a nicotine withdrawal with 300 people. Can't happen, right? So I had to do what I have to do to keep it okay. I'm not supporting it, I'm not promoting it, but what I can say is that there's so much focus on don't, bad, that's the conversation, rather than I want to go home and vape, right? Rather than just saying, okay, you can do that, or we can go over here, or we can do this, right? Just a simple distraction, honestly. You know, that's just kind of how I feel. That's what we do, and it seems to work. And I'm not supporting vaping, smoking, anything like that. I am not. But I'm realistic about it.
Right. Yeah, I have a couple of things. I want to applaud you for talking to these kids today and sharing your story and sharing everything that you did and encouraging them. I do in my classes teach, like I actually told them, I said, I'm not going to stand here ever and tell you not to smoke and not to vape and not to drink and not to have sex, because you will experiment with it and you will be around it and you probably will be offered one or all of them by the time you graduate, if you haven't already. Like I said, I'm never going to tell you not to do it, because that'll kind of work in reverse and you'll want to try it and want to do it. I said, I want to teach you the dangers and what can happen to your body of doing these things. And then I said, and know that that's a path you choose, but you could always choose a different path and recovery. So I want to ask you a little bit about recovery.
Because that was perfect.
Yeah, I do. I talk a lot about, here's your path, but you can recover, like you can get off that path. So with recovery and alcohol, like how difficult was it? Like how challenging is it every single day that you live? Like, are you tempted can you go to bars? Can you go to a party where there's alcohol? I mean, I just don't know the extent of your recovery. So if you could, that would be awesome.
Oh, that's a great question and a complete misnomer too. Honestly, beautiful question. So I drank at the end of my career. I was drinking 24 hours a day. So my body metabolizes differently. Alcoholics do. I have no pain threshold now because I shot my system full of opiates and alcohol. So when I go to the dentist, I can't get numb. When I have surgery, I got to be knocked out in a different way. For a long time, I had no bone left in my mouth. All my teeth have gone out. And I'm looking in my office. I have all these wonderful photos that, you know, whatever things I've done. But I look at them not like, I don't look at these magazines not in the same way that you would see them, because I have to be careful how big I'm smiling and they have to Photoshop teeth in. Now, I have a normal salary. Well, I did back then. So, but my trafficking ladies could get their whole mouth redone, but because they had Medicaid, mine wasn't like that. So I'm letting you know that. I had to save up a whole lot of money. Now I speak legislatively about it, so maybe you don't have to do that. But they had to rebuild my whole bone. I have 10 titanium implants in my mouth. These are not real. There's a lot of things that go along with that. When I first got sober, so my body metabolizes alcohol differently, completely, utterly. When I drink, I feel it in every fiber of my being. When my daughter was 21, and our family owns, my ex-husband owns a couple restaurants here. And so we were there and I'm like, take the shot, right? And they're like, and I'm like, I know, but she's not an alcoholic. And so when she took the drink, I was like, how did you feel? And she goes, nothing. I'm like, take another one. That's what I do, right? And she's like, Mom, I don't feel anything, right? Different metabolism. So when I And again, when I'm telling you that we're beyond human aid, I mean, we're beyond human aid. Aaron can't help me get sober. It's a spiritual bottom of hell that we have to go to. So what happened to me was, and I mean, I drank 24 hours a day, and not because I wanted to, because by that point it was oxygen. I had to have it. The poltergeist, it's a poltergeist, and it's in here. She's still in here, still here. And she needed to be fed. And that's exactly how you need to look at it when it gets to that point. It's like having a poltergeist in there. And I literally dropped to I tried to kill myself, right? It didn't work. So I felt like even more of a failure. Who fails at that? Literally, right? So I was broken in a way I'd never been snapped broken before. And I got on my knees and I said, God, please save my life. And at that moment, I have not had a drink since that moment. And the obsession left me at that moment. Now, that's not everybody's way, but that's typically how it happens with alcohol, for sure. So, cravings, I don't use that word in my world because we're excuse-ridden people. You give me an excuse and I'm going to run up and down the moon around it and confuse you in the process, and that's what we like to do. So we don't use trigger or craving because that will be the word of the day. She's doing this, so I'm craving. And I'm like, please, right? That's how we do. But what I can tell you is I know when I am at not my strongest, right? And it's usually when when good things are happening, honestly. But, you know, in the very beginning, we changed our people, places, and playthings. I was all those things. I was a lone wolf drinker user. So I didn't really have that. But in my world here, in the women I sponsor, their friends who are not their friends, you know, we know that, right? You have to change everything, and you have to be willing to change everything in your life, everything. I remember the first time I went to the grocery store, and I, you know, raised kids and whatever, and I remember I got a phone call that somebody I knew relapsed, and I hadn't been around that yet. And the bread was behind the vodka, and I had a complete nervous breakdown because I was sure that that would go off in my head right now, right? So this is about time and learning how things go. I failed on, I can't tell you how many grocery carts I bailed on when I was first sober, because I had anxiety attacks when I went into the grocery store and I would be overwhelmed. So I would just leave my stuff and bail. And I want to do anything I can do to not pick up. I want to make myself as safe as I can. And in the beginning, that was it. I lived in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. My tribe is still the same, right? I lived in the middle of that. And I did not put myself in positions, right, to romance anything. So that's how you do it in the beginning. There was a woman not long ago who was a very powerful executive person, and that she flew all the time. And she got sober in my world, in my little presence. Alcohol is amazing. It's just amazing. It's an amazing way of life. The 12 steps, we should all do them all the day. But she flew for the first time. And so we refer to Alcoholics Anonymous as a friend of Bill W's, because Bill Wilson is the reason that it's there. So she says, she gets on the white phone at McCarran and says, are there any friends of Bill W's? I'm at gate C28 and I need help. And 52 people showed up for her. 52 of us showed up for her. So that's what we do, right? I sponsor women who, again, are prostitutes, who are strippers, who are executives, and who are cocktail waitresses. That's not my thing. I don't want to be around it, not that I'm afraid I'm going to drink, but because I don't want to be around it. That's just, I don't want to be around any of it. But am I? Yeah. My professional career is around all that stuff all the time, you know, but I don't put myself in those positions. And it's not because I'm afraid I'm going to drink. It's because I'm uncomfortable being around it. It's just not my thing anymore. So there's a lot of life changing that you do. So that doesn't happen, but you have to be willing to do it all.
I love that. So I have a friend she's a recovering addict. She is sober off of meth for 4 years. And she always reiterates the changing your people, places, and playthings. And I think that it's super important because I remember when I was in high school, I had a lot of friends who were using drugs, and I was a cheerleader. So I was in athletics. And so I couldn't be around all of my old friends who were doing all of that stuff. And it was very hard for me to kind of adapt to like this new lifestyle of finding new friends, because all of my friends from elementary school were using these things. And so it was just kind of like a culture shock of like, how do you find new friends? So if you could maybe like reiterate like maybe exactly what people play things and playgrounds are, so that way, you know, because I feel like for youth it's kind of hard if like their friends are using, like how do they find new friends, like what does that mean, like how do you go about that, because I feel like that's one of the most difficult things for them too.
It, I really can't answer that, but I can throw some stuff out there. And I can't answer it because right now we have even, let's say we're not in the pandemic, right? Still, socialization is how we identify, right? And how we're accepted, and you know, and that big delusion. But in the end, it's growing up, right? And kids, sorry, kids, the kids are assholes to each other. They're evil as well as women. Women can be, I mean, horrible. But how do you do that, right? How do you do that social grouping change when you're in the middle of high school or junior high, which is even worse, probably? We built a high school, we created an alternative peer group, and we've tried to create those environments. That's what we do here. When you're a kid there, now I do happen to know that there are Al-Anon and other stuff going on around there. It's a matter of one kid being brave enough to start a movement, honestly, or two, right? They get together, that start a movement, start a group, start their own new socialization. That's what it's going to take, especially in Carson City, right? Especially in anywhere really, but especially in a smaller area. You know, it really, changing your people, places, and playthings for an adult is the same, but it's different, right? Because we have a car, we can find our way, whatever. There's 1,000 meetings and this and that. That's a choice at that point, what you choose to do. I choose not to, or I choose to. You're in a situation here where kids talk, it's not okay. The kids that you're hanging out with want to get high, smoke weed, whatever, commit crimes, whatever that is. And you're like, you know what? I can't do that anymore. But the fear of advising anybody of that is gripping. The fear of reaching out to someone you don't know is even more terrifying. So it's a matter of what is the community putting together for them. And I don't, not resources and not a pamphlet, and certainly not a website, but I mean actionable stuff. So if any of you guys here have tried weed, not for you, decide you want to change your piece, you know, whatever the drug is, whatever the circumstances are, find each other, because it only, you know, where 2 or 3 are gathered, change can happen, but we don't do it by ourselves. So you got to create that, you know, and it, again, I can't tell schools enough this, it is not about sitting in front of a guidance counselor. And it's certainly not about, you know, throwing up a website or handing out a pamphlet. The educator, the school, the counselor, the whatever, has to be willing enough to walk the walk and pave the path for them and to get them going, you know. We got to get traction going, but we can't just navigate it by ourselves.
Thanks for that. That was a good point. So that's why I bring you as presenters and people like you, and I put them in front of my students so they see you, they've now understand your story, and that you're willing to help, like real people, and not just giving them a pamphlet. Like I had Jason Morones come up, or Moanes, with human trafficking from Vegas. He came up and he was in my classroom in person.
I heard.
Yeah, it was amazing. He was really good. And I love to have Samantha with Partnership Carson City come in, because then the kids know and have kind of made a relationship, or at least a one touch with that person, that they might feel safe or calling or reaching out to that person than just getting a pamphlet or a website, you know. Like, I just feel it's so valuable. And you sharing your story, I mean, it must be so hard to be real and raw and tell your stories and tell your struggles and voice that and share with kids. But I think kids really relate to that and can see the pain that that you show with the realness and the rawness of your story. So I hope that the students that are on here and the parents that are on here can realize that it's a struggle and you can recover. There is hope and there is change. You just need to reach out and talk to people.
Yeah. It's not, it's not, I'll tell you what, sharing my stories of freedom. I'm no longer chained, I'm no longer chained, but thank you. Because someone shared their story, I heard a tiny bit, what you need is a tiny fraction of willingness. If there's parents that are listening that are hiding bottles or you're struggling or whatever the case is, find your way. I will talk to you. If you're a kid, anybody is in a place, there's nothing that you can't tell me that would shock me ever. I've done it or thought about doing it, I'm sure. But if that change has to start from this end, I'm happy to get on the plane, man, and let's figure some stuff out. Samantha, I am totally down to do it. And I'm just, to think that I'm speaking to my high school that I graduated from in '86 is stunning to me, all in itself. And Erin, how we found each other, everything circles around and there's a reason for it all. And it's not for me, but it's for somebody here.
Yeah.
Here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much. Like, your story was so powerful, and I mean, I love it. Like, I can resonate with it in aspects of like my family life and everything, and I found it amazing. And so I hope that the students did as well.
Yeah. I did have some kids messaging me throughout the video and sharing some things, and I appreciate their willingness to share and open up as well. Like, I think you just kind of like allowing them to talk is really important too. So
was I supposed to be reading that?
Pardon?
Was I supposed to be reading the chat?
Oh no, we were, and actually
Yeah.
we private so they can text me. Yeah.
I think you allowed it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think you allowed them to start the conversation. And I think that, that's something that's really to be spoken for. I mean, they're starting the conversation because of you. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I did have one kind of thing, that one other question. You touched on it a little bit, but we talk about in our classes about risk factors. And your dad had passed away when you were young. I think you said he was an alcoholic, right, Heather?
No, well, no, I'm adopted. So yeah,
okay.
My biological dad I found 2 years ago was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Now, my dad passing, he was actually the photographer for the Nevada State Museum. That was none of those things were factors in my life. I never felt different. I never felt weird. My mom walked us through grief, but my biological parents both died from alcoholism. Risk factors were full of them. Just assume that they're everywhere. Don't try to just assume that we're in them all. Honestly, because you just never know what's going to tip you over. But I can't imagine as an adolescent. Certainly, I've had a lot of in-depth conversation with the kids at the alternative peer group. But there are ratings on movies for a reason, because the mind is still growing. Now, can you watch something? Sure. Can you ingest it? Sure. But what does your head do with it, right? What does the mind do with it? What does the brain do with it? So I have from 52 back. So when somebody 74 is talking to me about something, even at 52, I'm like, right? I'm not thinking, thank God you said that. I'll never do that. That's not, I maybe a little bit more now because I've made heinous errors in my life, but as a kid, I don't expect you to think, boy, I don't want to have happened to me what happened to her. I'm never doing that. That's not going to happen. Risk factors are trauma, right? Trauma, cortisol, trauma. So abuse, emotional abuse, bullying, parents who are alcoholics or drug addicts in the house, friends being beat up, raped, feeling uncomfortable, all those things. Those are risk factors.
And I'm just saying, like, reaching out for help, when you're saying reaching out for help, and Samantha always says, reach out for help, get help, talk to someone, ask somebody. It could be for any reason. It could be for,
Mhm.
you said, bullying, harassment, being bisexual and not being able to voice it and talk about it, like living a life with secrets, like such as alcoholism and drug abuse and sexual abuse. Living a life without those secrets buried in can be enough to become explosive one day, and you just don't know how to handle it, and that's where it could lead to very destructive behaviors, so any situation that you're in, feel free to always talk to me. Like, all the kids are on here, you can talk to me anytime. My door's always open. So yeah, don't live a life full of secrets, because it's hard.
I always tell people, and you have such a good air that I would talk to you. That doesn't happen every day. And I'll be really honest. Like, I would sit up in her lap and go, I'm totally hurting. I would be okay with that. What was I going to say? It was super important. What were we talking about? Picking up the phone. Dang it.
But I said, like, if you have anything bugging you, like being bisexual or bullying or harassment or drugs or alcohol.
Dang it. It was so good too. It's been a long
Sorry.
day. No, it's me. It's been a long day. And I'm going to think of it and I'm going to be like, man, that was good. Because it would be real. When you pick up the phone, and you say exactly what you need to say. It's not, hi, how are you? Because really, if that happens to me, I'm going to go, how are you? How are you really? I tell my people all the time, be as honest as you can be right now. Because if you are full of secrets, which a lot of us are, I mean, it's just what it is, you can't divulge all those things at one time. It's just not okay, right? So just be as honest as you can be in the moment, and work toward it. But when I got sober, they said, Heather, your secrets are going to keep you sick and they're going to kill you. And I was like, okay, but I'm taking this to the grave. Ain't happening at 38. Until I saw someone who it took to the grave. And I didn't want to die anymore. I didn't know what my life was going to be. But I was free. Whether my kids came back in my life, whether anything else happened in my life, I was free. And I didn't want to die anymore. So to this day, my job at times, it's the rescue mission, but this is the piece of my life. I'm a political operative in many other areas, which is weird. And I know a funny little word, but man, it's super cool. I get to do everything I like to do. And who gets that? And I'm a proponent for it, so try to figure it out. But death brought me here. So my job at times takes me on a ride if I have to go do undercover stuff or whatever the case is, where I can't be 100% honest. And I struggle with that because I am stone cold sober in the middle of a program. Right. So I will always call my sponsor and I'm like, listen, this is what happened today. This is what I had to do. This is what I had to say. Right. I'm now in a place where I do that. And I'd say where this all started was when they said to me, you don't have to, no is a complete sentence, Heather. You don't have to make up a story because you don't want to do something. And I'm like, what? It was such an epiphany. Like, and you can hang up the phone nicely. And I'm like, excuse me? This is so easy. But, I initially, I would always say, no, I can't come because blah, blah, blah. And it was never real, by the way. And you can never, and they said you can't lie on your children's names. And I never have since that day, meaning like I can't go because they're homesick. So these are where that little bit of honesty starts coming through enough so that when you can pick up the phone, we gave a sticker to a 62-year-old man. It was so exciting because he came up here and he goes, I didn't lie for 4 hours today. And I'm like, oh my God. We'll have a parade because it's a big deal. It's a really big deal, So, I would say you celebrate the truth as much as you can.
I know one of the students on here, Shauna, you had a question. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask, you can.
Hi, I just had a question. So you mentioned earlier that your biological parents both had issues with alcoholism, and I was wondering if you've ever put thought into like that being like hereditary and like the addiction being hereditary through your family.
Yeah, definitely. Because alcoholism specifically, anybody can become addicted to an opiate. Please know that. But not everybody who uses an opiate uses it alcoholically. So it's alcoholism for me, well, it's a science, but I'm not a doctor, is genetic. So when I got sober, and this is a horrible thing to say, but when I got sober, I came to the realization that I came from the shallow end of the genetic gene pool. Like I figured out at that point that there was alcoholism in my family or drug addiction and some serious crime. My father was the head of the Southern mob, of which my kids find super funny, but I have to remind them they too share this blood. But it's been an incredible journey to find those things out. But was I surprised by it? Not at all, because I am not an alcoholic. I am like a full-blown, brutal drug addict alcoholic. So, everything I know now and, everything I look back on, I was very sure 100% that my family, had addiction in it without a doubt. So it was educational. I didn't look for my parents because I needed parents. In fact, I did it well after my mom passed, which made me sad because she would have really enjoyed doing that with me. But because somebody flipped me a commercial that looked exactly like my son. And I was like, what? Okay. All right, we're spitting in the tube. But I never wanted to go into someone's life and say, hey, what about me? What if they never told anybody? I never want to take that from them. They gave me an incredible life. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, it is genetic. And it was not surprising to me. And my children are all on notice, right? And my bonus kids too, because they come from addiction. And it's literally almost every other one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a good question, Shauna.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to ask a question or have a thought or question they want to? Oh, Allie, you have your hand up. You want to ask a question?
Ask a question. I just want to say, like, literally, thank you for like being here and like coming here and talking to all these people who you literally have no idea what their family situation is, but still being there without knowing if they have someone like you in their life to give them this advice. Like, it means a lot, not just for me, but I bet for a lot of the other people here too.
Allie, Sue, you're gonna make me cry.
I know, Allie, you're
Oh my God, that was so sweet.
genuine. Like it was really from your heart.
Oh.
That was powerful, Allie. That makes me feel really good tonight.
It's the exact same thing to Miss Bean on the private chat. I was like, I love how just open she is and like she takes responsibility for it. But she also says that she got through it, and she says that she's doing the same thing. She's helping other people do the same thing for other people.
Well, part of the gig. Part of the deal. You give back what was so freely given to you.
Heather, you are admired by 37 people just from like an hour of talking, like not even going to lie.
Yes.
There were 49. There were 49 on here.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
left already.
Yes. We
There
got
were.
Well, I'll tell you what, it means more to me. It meant so much to me when Aaron reached out to me, because what a weird thing is that. And the first person I wanted to tell was my mom, and she died a while back. And I'm just grateful I'm alive to do it. And I'm grateful that when my mom died, I got to hold her hand and I got to tell her I love myself before she died. And now I get to be here with you guys. It's a beautiful life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
this is very like a nice, genuine story. Like to tell kids all what you're going through. Like you have no idea who. Like I have trouble with telling people what's wrong with me. And you're just genuinely open telling everyone, oh hey, yeah, my family's all like this and that. Like I can relate with with you and all that stuff.
Well, thank you, Miss Smith.
I see
Thanks,
like
Miss.
a lot of kids at school who like a lot of people leave out just because of their family situation or how like they deal with certain situations. But taking your like story into more consideration, those people who we might want to avoid, they literally could turn out to be someone like you who we could look up to in the future. And just thinking that now, I think people should start including those people more because of that. And I'm gonna do that.
Well, Alex, you can all be anything you
You
want.
up here in person. I need you to come to Carson and talk to these kids and all of the kids in health.
I
Come
was
help
I
anytime.
was just gonna say
love help. I'm
And
not
Allie Sue, I'm gonna need you to talk to me too.
you, what's today? I don't even know what the heck. I still think it's March of last year most of the time.
Yeah,
Friday.
Rose.
Is today Thursday?
it is the 25th. Yes.
So I'll be talking tomorrow 'cause it's Friday. Yeah, I'll fly home anytime. You don't need to tell me. In fact, we were gonna do a 35-year, we do reunions, my class still. I know, because we think we're that amazing. And it is quite lovely, actually. But anyway, I'll be up for Nevada Day for sure, but I'll come anytime.
Well,
Anytime.
I'm gonna hold you to that because I think a lot of kids hurt and I don't think you just gave the kids on this call permission to express their feelings. Like, and I think that's most powerful thing that they heard is like, you shared your story and you literally said, you can always talk to me, and you just opened the door and gave them permission to share their life struggles. And I know the kids on here, they've already talked to me a bunch and they've already shared a bunch of life struggles with me. And like, I appreciate that and them feeling comfortable to come talk to me, but I will share with everybody on here also Heather's number. She just posted it, and her email as well. So know that she's a fantastic resource and you can contact her anytime, like she said. So I appreciate that.
We have teen groups here at the Alternative Peer Group that my husband's foundation runs. So I have a son who is a stepson who's 5 years off heroin. My son's gone through suicidal ideations. My daughter goes to adult children of alcoholics, like we're in it. And so they are great resources to plug you in with exactly who to. They might go, okay, you might need to talk to him because, so we're good at connecting you to maybe who might be the best as well. And you don't have to know them every year.
Well, I want to thank you again. I can't thank you enough. We've been doing this for several years now, and this has been the most touching to me. Like, I was like, holy cow, this is so amazing. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm so thankful that we connected and you were able to come on and be with my kids and be with them tonight and make an impact in their lives just in an hour of time. And again, I want to say thanks to Sam. And Sam, if you'll just mention to the kids too on here that about your youth camp, because I think if they love this, they would love the youth camp that you guys are doing too.
It's super fun. I mean, I went, well, you don't even remember, but I was there. Super fun.
I am sending out my information right now in the chat. So yeah, my youth camp, the number I'm sending you, you guys can feel free to text me. I'm sending you guys my email, and then my youth camp, May 15th and 16th. Honestly, you can't pass up free food and tie-dye and all that fun stuff. We're gonna have greenhouse project, do an advocacy project. So that'll be fun too. So I got lots of fun stuff up my sleeve. And there's free swag. So if you guys like backpacks, t-shirts, water bottles, sunglasses, whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's literally free. You just have to show up. So
food and everything. And I have applications in my room. So just come in and grab one. You don't even have to be in my room, but just come grab one, or she just put information there too for you guys.
just a little bit.
The deadline says April 1st, but I'm gonna extend it. So as long as you guys get me in your applications by the end of April, I will accept them. All of that. I put my phone number and my email in the chat. So you can text me, email me, with questions or anything, and also for our youth group as well too. So, yeah, so check out that before we end the meeting. And that's all we
Yeah.
have for you guys today.
Well, thank you again, Samantha, for hosting this. And I can't express enough